You're welcome.
Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, represented by the Honourable Minister, FCT, Alhaji Muhammadu Musa Bello, Secretary of the Government, represented by the Permanent Secretary, other protocols observed. I haven't got much time, and I've been given a very difficult task, and I'm also not a professor or a lecturer, so you'll have to forgive my weaknesses in presentation. Revenue, I've been asked to talk about revenue and some fiscal matters. Revenue very wide, and part of the constitutional mandate of the Commission is to monitor revenue into several major institutions: NNPC, DPR, FRS, Customs, and CBN. To summarize the revenue generation of these agencies in a few minutes is a very difficult task, but I'll do my best. Basically, majority of the revenue coming to the Federation comes from the NNPC and DPR from oil. Oil has suffered in the last few years, particularly during the last 3 or 4 years, as price has crashed, perhaps from about $100 a barrel to about 40, 50, 60. And that could have created a huge problem for this country had it not been for the change agenda that I will now show when I come to show the slide of the performance of FRS and Customs. NNPC production, on the next 4 slides, I've given out a lot of these. Maybe later people will go through them. Production has been stable, although the Revenue Commission recommends that vandalization should be carefully controlled so that joint venture production should go back up to 1.8 million barrels a day, which is now around 900,000 barrels a day. PSC is doing its best, but PSC revenue stream contribution to Federation account is about only 25%, while the JVC contribution is about 70%. So we need to look at that structure to balance the structure properly. Please go ahead to the next style, the non-oil revenue earnings of the Federal Inland Revenue. Federal Inland Revenue Service has improved, as an earlier speaker has mentioned, from about 3 trillion to 2018, 5 trillion. Now that's a very major achievement. However, this may not seem dramatic, but if you consider the fact that this increase in revenue by FRS was achieved with a very low crude oil price, then you would begin to understand that the FRS has done commendably, extremely well to be able to sustain the same revenue stream in about 50%, 60% price of crude that was in existence before the change agenda came in. I have another slide. Pardon? Oh, okay, sorry. I'm not a professional in this one. Oh, sorry, I'm going backwards. Yeah, that's the Nigerian Customs. The previous one is the FRS. Okay. The next slide. Okay. The next slide is Customs, and here you can also see the contribution of Customs going up from about 800 billion to 1.1 trillion in this particular period. This again in a period of falling oil prices. So Customs too has done commendable to increase revenue by 20% in this short period. The other revenue stream that we're looking at is going to be solid minerals. Revenue has gone up from 2 billion to now 2.8 billion. Now, this is just beginning to pick up, solid minerals, and it's part of the diversification program that this government has also taken on to, first of all, drive down solid minerals, capture most of the illegal mining onto the formal sector, to register them, manage them, and then also earn revenue. Now, the next slide, very quickly, recoveries by the Revenue Commission, because the Commission's constitutional mandate is in tune with the current government's change agenda, that is transparency, accountability, collecting all possible revenues and blocking leakages. That's our main job, and so we are in line with the current government's agenda. And these are details of recoveries made by the Revenue Commission in its monitoring activities. Several $billion, several billion naira, and these are details are all there, and we continue to do our work. Now, I would like to go to the next slide to show that Revenue Commission not only monitors revenue, but also looks at fiscal aspects. That's why our name is Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. And we look at what is happening with the money being collected. And these are a list of what have happened. A lot of road repairs, construction of new roads, construction of railway. In fact, I have a list here. I couldn't have the list of roads because it's a whole booklet. But exploration of oil and gas, Gongola Basin, Abba Basin, construction of railways, the one to Kaduna, Lagos, Ibadan, Abuja Rail Mass Transit System. I think I've got it somewhere. Sorry. Wow. Would you come and help me? I think I'll. I think I went too fast. The speed of now power. Another aspect which we paid attention on the infrastructure is gas pipelines. Completed 902 kilometers of pipelines and ongoing 490, which will help power generation and will help industry. We've also taken note of the improvement in power generation and transmission. And as a former marketer of petroleum products, I was a managing director of World Petroleum, African Petroleum. Whenever NEPA used to go down, we used to be very happy because we know we were going to sell a lot of diesel. Now that I'm retired and I'm on pension and salary, I'm not happy when NEPA goes down because I have to buy diesel. And in the last few years, power has improved to such an extent that we now have power 24 hours a day and sometimes 2 days in a stretch. I've been buying diesel now, instead of weekly, I've been buying diesel now monthly. So that really, we can continue to hope that the sellers of diesel and generators can continue to be unhappy while we continue to be happy. I will now go to fiscal matters, if I can get this working properly. Recommendations, improvement, fiscal matters. Now, I just want to summarize this one a little bit quickly. These are concerns that cause problems in Nigeria. High cost of governance. We must look at high cost of governance. This is caused by an expensive nature of the presidential system, large bureaucracy, duplication of government ministries and agencies, endemic corruption. In fact, in Nigeria, people are not only corrupt, but are proud to display their corruption. Big houses and big cars. They want to show that they are corrupt. And it's something very, very serious, and I'm happy the lady that came from UK was talking about it. High cost of public service delivery, high security costs, insurgencies, kidnappings, multiple salaries and severance allowances for public officers, extravagant activities and expenditure of public officers, high domestic and foreign debt, weak enforcement institutions. Suggestions to reduce this further: reduce the executive structure in an optimum cabinet. We must commend President Buhari. He has 36 ministers. In the past, ministers were up to 42, and I don't know how many special assistant advisors, maybe God knows how many. He's kept to a very slim cabinet and a very slim political system. Now, there's also need to merge and harmonize some of the government agencies. Quite many of them are duplication of their effort. and therefore you are just paying unnecessary salaries and wages. Strict adherence to approved remuneration for political and public office holders, pursuance of cost of reduction policies, emphasis on development and infrastructure, which I've already explained, road, rail, gas, and power. Additional change, attitudinal change in terms of disposition and lifestyle of political leaders. This one I would like to mention a few that I've noticed about President Buhari's own attitude. He's a very strict and disciplined person. When he came into office, I took note that one day his wife and daughters were traveling by Emirates to Saudi Arabia. They were going with commercial airline. I've noted in past when staff, friends and girlfriends of officials in the villa used to take presidential aircraft. Now his own wife and children are traveling commercial. He even decided to sell some of the aircraft in the presidential fleet. He also refused to buy new vehicles. Most people, when they get into office, buy new vehicles. He decided to use the same vehicles used by his predecessor. He also travels with a very small contingent, goes abroad with a contingent of about 40 officials. In the past, presidents used to travel with 200, 100, 300. There was even a time a presidential delegation went out with 1,000 delegates. The conference internationally was expecting 1,000 people. Nigeria went with the whole 1,000. So this disposition of Mr. President in himself, disciplining himself and running himself in a disciplined way, we must commend, and ask him to continue in that direction. Now, I'm coming towards the end. I've been asked to be so fast. Where are my papers? Now, there's need for a comprehensive review of the PSC and the PSC contracts. These PSC contracts are the ones that produce almost 1 million barrels of oil a day. They should have been reviewed in 2008. Government has started to review them now, and I'm sure a lot of people are unhappy because that review that has not been done since 2008 has made the Federation account lose between $20 to $60 billion. Now, any loss to the Federation account means that some people are benefiting that money. That's the IOCs and some people. The government has started, but in the next 4 years, God willing, he'll continue as president. Let him quickly implement this because it's very, very unpopular out there, but it's good for the Federation account. Now, other vandalization should be fought vigorously so that onshore production can rise. Granting of waivers and concessions should be carefully implemented and stopped, which was an abuse that was happening before 2015. Mining Inspectorate Division of the Minister of Mines should be carved out to be made into an inspectorate arm like DPR, self-financing that will develop the mining industry. Finally, I just want to make a few remarks about the President's own personal, in addition to what I've said in the past about his disposition. I have been able to be lucky to have followed the President in his footsteps. He doesn't know that, but I have followed his footsteps. I joined NNPC in 1980, about a year or so after he left NNPC as a Minister for Petroleum. He developed NNPC, and when I got into NNPC, in a few years, I became head of domestic sales in marketing. And I was just marketing products produced by the 3 refineries and 22 depots and 5,000 kilometers of pipeline, which he himself left in 1979. Since he left, that investment of 3 refineries, 22 depots, and 5,000 kilometers of domestic pipelines, not a single inch has been included, has increased. So he left this. Now, later on, as MD of African Petroleum, there was a price increase under Sani Abacha, and the issue was what to do with the price increase. Everybody was frightened that the money would disappear, but it was agreed that a PTF should be formed, and the most honest Nigerian should be found to run it. And that's where, again, Sani Abacha begged Muhammadu Buhari to come and chair the PTF. It was the most honest Nigerian that could be found to do it. Now, the reason was this: half of the price increase was given us to the industry to manage itself, and the other half to PTF, so that Nigerians can see the benefit of the price increase. And from that time to now, a lot of people can still see a lot of roads, schools, clinics, and bridges with the insignia of PTF, 20 years after the PTF had been closed down. He was sworn in May 2015, and by December, I was asked to act as chairman. And again, I'm following him and seeing his impact on revenue collection and his impact in infrastructure and impact in the activities he was doing. I then remembered that President Buhari, first assignment when he left the NDA was as a supply and transport officer, S&T. I think that's how he started, before going into infantry or whatever he is now. I don't know, he's retired. Because my senior brother Shitima actually worked with him in 1967 or 8 in S&T. And an S&T officer normally looks at logistics, supply and distribution. And that's all that the president has been doing since. In NNPC, he was doing gas pipelines, refineries and depots. In PTF, he was doing roads and bridges and schools and hospitals. And now, he's doing infrastructure, roads, rail, gas pipelines, power. He's followed his profession to the hilt. Thank you very much.
To tell